Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joe Salemi. I'm the Product Marketing Manager with Dynascape Software. Very excited to host the second part of Jody's three-part webinar series in the 5 Ds of successful design build sales. We have Marisa Palmieri, editor of Landscape Management Magazine, with us. And I'd like to pass it over to Marisa in just a second. But first, I'd like to take care of some housekeeping. Just want to let everybody know that we are recording this webinar as we did the first one. And following this webinar, we're going to post the recording on YouTube, but we're also going to host it on our website in a password-protected environment. So we'll send out the link as we did earlier with the password. And so you just go to the link, sign in, and we'll get going that way. Also, if you have any questions, please type them into the questions chat box. And at the end of the webinar, we'll answer 2 to 3 questions. And whatever we don't get to, we'll get Jody to answer them at a later time and send those answers out. Marisa, I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks, Joe. We're very happy to be here as a co-sponsor along with Dynascape of Jody Shilan's 5 Ds of Successful Design Build Sales webinar series. Jody, who has a master's degree in landscape architecture, is an award-winning landscape designer and design build contractor who sold millions of dollars of installation work using a simple, unique, and highly successful sales process that's incredibly easy to learn. These processes are based on hands-on experience working for himself, as well as some of the most successful design build companies in New Jersey. Today, Jody uses his 35-plus years of experience to teach other professionals how to dramatically increase their sales by following the same process. He does this through private consulting, public speaking, group workshops, and his exclusive members-only website, FromDesignToBuild.com. Jody is also the executive director of the New Jersey Landscape Contractors Association. He's a Planet Trailblazer, a Landscape Ontario preferred consultant, and he's also a columnist for Landscape Management. And his column has won first place from the Turf and Ornamental Communicators Association. Last year, he created a radio show, an online radio show. It's called Landscape Live, and it's specifically for landscape professionals. It airs on Wednesdays from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern. And he interviews some of the biggest names in the green industry. For more information, you can contact Jody at jshilan@fb2b.com and schedule an appointment with him. You can also visit his website, which is FromDesignToBuild.com, and you can become a member today. And so now it's over to Jody for today's presentation.
All right, thank you very much, Marisa. Joe, you're going to pass the controls over?
I am passing it over now, Jody.
All right, there we go. All right, everybody, I'm just, you should be able to see my screen now. I want to thank Marisa and also Joe for partnering and hosting this three-part webinar series, and for helping all of us just get great information out there. I'm very excited about this next presentation, which is a follow-up to the first one. I'm going to spend just a few minutes going over just to recap some of the ideas from our first presentation. So if you listened to it before, there'll be a refresher. If you haven't heard it before, like Joe said, the recording is going to be available to you. So this second webinar is called Creating an Unbiddable Master Plan and Proposal. And so we're going to walk through the design part of this as well as the written proposal aspect of this as well. All right, so let me just, okay. So introduction, again, similar as last time, is what I want you to do is stop doing estimates or being proud of how many estimates that you have, because the reality is that you need to sell installations. So if you're running around doing estimates without properly qualifying your clients, you're wasting a lot of time and money, and also it's keeping you away from people that actually do want to work with you. So this whole process teaches you and helps you figure out who is your real customer, and then to work with those customers, get paid for your designs, which is what we talked about in the first webinar, and then from there get the installation contract as well. The Unbiddable Master Plan, and just to the overall comment for it, the Unbiddable Master Plan is, the idea is to create drawings that can be built by any qualified contractor, but you want that contractor to be you. My goal is to help you make it as difficult as you can for competitors to price up your drawings. If you follow my process, most of the time, once you get the design fee, is a 90–95% chance that you're going to get the installation because you're building such a great relationship with your client. But of those 5 or 10%, it might be a little higher for you if you're just getting used to the process. So if the customer does decide to take the drawings, which they've paid for, and they have the right to shop them out, we'd like to make it a little more difficult for our competitors to come up with pricing for the plan. None of this is, all of this is actually pro-contractor, and it's also pro-homeowner, but my focus is to help you get the work and not worry about your competitors. So here's a sample drawing of a Unbiddable Master Plan, and we'll get into breaking it down of what exactly it includes, and more importantly, what it does not include. Here's a close-up of one area. Again, you can get a sense of what the spaces are like. You can see where the steps are, patio spaces, planter boxes, some of the plants. So it's a nice layout. It's very graphically appealing. It's very colorful, but it's devoid of information, or a fair amount of information. Is somebody typing out there? Or if you just mute yourself? I apologize. I'm across from a firehouse. So what we're going to do is talk about, let me just let the siren die down. I think it does one more. All right. Can't always control our environment, so no. Okay. Just give me another minute. I apologize. We'll stay, a few minutes longer. Need be to compensate for that. Must be a big fire. Oh. All right. Thank you for waiting. So what we have here is what I call the Unbiddable Master Plan and Unbiddable Landscape Proposal. So we're going to talk about the plan and also the proposal of how to design the drawing and the information to put on it, and as well as the proposal. There are things that you can do on the proposal that gives your client all the information that they need to understand what's included in the project, but we could write it in a way that if they do decide to take the plan and the proposal and give it to another contractor, what we don't want to do is make it easy for them to price everything up. We want them, at a minimum, to have to do their own homework, to do all their own measurements, to figure out all their own quantities. Because we know as contractors, the harder it is for somebody to price these things up, and I think I could speak for everybody, nobody really enjoys doing the estimates. Nobody enjoys bidding on projects. It's very time consuming. We all would much rather design our own projects, estimate our own projects, and then build our own projects. And if you listen to these webinars, and I recommend listening to them several times, you'll start to understand some of the things that I've done over the years that you can do as well that will help you very quickly eliminate competitors even from the onset. For most of my career, whenever I worked with a client, it was myself and the client, and there was nobody else that they were meeting with. And not to say that I got every single customer that I met with, but the ones that I did get and the ones that did agree to go with the pay for the design fee, like I said, 95% of them went with us for the installation, and very few of them ever took the drawings and shopped them out to a competitor. But of course, some did. This is all part of what I call my 5 Ds to successful design build sales. The first webinar, we talked about developing the program, determining the priority, and discussing the budget. Today we're going to talk about the unbiddable plan and proposal, which is in number 4, which is design the dream. And then next week we're going to talk about doing the deal, where you actually are presenting the drawing, you're presenting the proposal, and you're getting a deposit for the work. So all of these steps, everything depends on everything before it, and I guarantee you that if you follow this and incorporate it and make it your own, that you will be much more successful than you have been in the past. And I'm very excited that I've spoken to a lot of people that do follow it methodically, and it's really changed the way they've done business. They're selling more work, they're getting better projects as well, and it's less stressful because they're not wasting so much time on clients. You know, we call them tire kickers, or you call them suspects instead of prospects, because you don't really know what their intentions are. So this process, a lot of things, and I always talk about this in my presentations, a lot of these things are similar to what you're doing, but it's not exactly the same. And those differences, those nuances, are what are going to make you sell more work, design better work, upsell your customers, and have a growing company. So it's a lot of the little things. Even though as I go through this, you could say I do this, I do that, I do this. There are going to be some things that I've tweaked and changed, and worked with my customers and realized that these things work and these things do not work. So we're going to go through that right now. So again, we're on step 4, design the dream. The next one will be design the deal. Nope. I guess I got to fix that. Do the deal. All right. So selling landscape design services was 1. Today's creating an unbiddable plan and proposal is 2. And next week, preparing for the perfect presentation. And the discussion of what we talked about last time, selling the landscape design services. And you could read through this, but it's basically saying that you need to sell landscape design services to clients. You can't do free design work. That is what is such a huge time drain for all of us. And doing free design work does not lead to better sales. It actually leads to worse sales. The second webinar today is, as we said before, nobody enjoys doing a plan, putting together a design, and then having another company build it. The joy, for design build companies is to design the projects and then do the installation, and to do both the design work and the installation at a profit. So we're going to learn how to, like I said before, frustrate your competitors so that they're not going to want to bid on your drawings, because it's a lot of work for them. They'd rather do their own designs, or they'd rather bid on other drawings, and that's okay with us. And then the next one, so you know, is now that we have our package, our plan, our proposal, we're going to talk about the presentation. So most of us don't have a lot of experience doing presentations, and there are a lot of things that you can do that help your presentation, and there are a lot of things that you can do that hurt it. And unfortunately, most of us just go out there, start presenting, do what we can. We don't get any feedback except for the fact that we got the work or didn't get the work. Very rarely do we ever go as pairs, to try to understand or, discuss how we did on the presentation. And so I'm going to give you a lot of insight into things that you can do. Some of them are, or most of them are just really very simple. A lot of common sense. There may be reminders of things that you're already doing, but then there are other things that are going to, make you really think about that these ideas work better, and you're going to experience it by having a better success. So one basic tenet to all of this is that customers want to buy, and one of the reasons that I like to work with master plans, and you should want to have your customers or talk your customers into doing a full master plan, as opposed to just walkways or your patios or front foundation plantings, is that you want to show your designs in context. You also want to really show clients all of the possibilities that they can have. It'll be done in phases, of course, but if you put an overall plan together, giving clients the opportunity to buy more, they will buy more. And that's where, when I said before that instead of running around just giving estimates, when you do have a customer that pays for the design fee, you can really design the dream for them and then figure out how to do the project in phases, guaranteeing yourself work this year, but also for next year and the following years as they do phases 2, 3, 4. And what you'll find as well is that their original budgets that may have been, say, $10,000 or $15,000, as you're doing the work, they look at the plan, they're excited, they're going to start adding to the project, or what we call is upselling. But in reality, they're up buying. You're not really selling anything at all. You're just working outside, and the drawing shows them all the ideas. They know how much other things are going to cost because it's in the proposal, or you could give them prices for it. But instead of chasing the other customers, and making a $5,000 or $10,000 sale here or there, you can take the customer that you're working with, give them a great customer experience, and have the project just grow organically. Let's see. I'm sorry, I'm going backwards. All right. So here's another sample of a unbiddable master plan. There's everything on here is drawn to scale. All right, patterned concrete pool deck, annual fountain grass. Okay, so if you look at this, you can count the grasses. If we look in the planter bed, there's 6 grasses. What kind are they? What size are they? Well, that's not in the drawing. That'll be something that we put in the proposal later on. Outdoor barbecue cooktop, if you're looking at the screen to the right. As we know, that can mean a variety of different things. That cooktop could be anywhere from $5,000 or $10,000 up to $25,000, depending on the cooktop itself could be $4 or $5 grand. Depends what kind of countertop you're using. So a lot of these notes, that are in here, a lot of them are generic and not giving specific information. So what an unbiddable master plan is, and for those of you that have went to college and got a degree in landscape architecture, we were always trained to give very detailed information, provide all the construction details, grading plans, lighting plans, etc., and which is great, but for design build, it's not really necessary. It's very time consuming. For a landscape architect's office, that's their business, and their drawings can be $5,000, $10,000. Design build, we're not in that price range because we don't need to be. We need to sell concepts and ideas to our clients so that they understand what the project is all about, but we don't need all the details because our hardscape crews know how to install the hardscapes, planting crews know how to install the plantings, and the customer's just working with one company. So a lot of this information is not really necessary. So here we have a very goofy-looking landscape plan that I found on the internet. I guess somebody is providing this for their clients. It's a rough concept plan. But what we're doing is taking the plan that we saw before that has detail to it, has a lot of information on it, combining it with a concept plan, which means we're showing a lot of good ideas, all right, and we're combining these two drawings into what I'm calling an unbiddable master plan, all right, and here's a sample of a drawing that has, again, everything's in color. You can understand visually looking at this where the driveway is, where the lawn area is, where the swimming pool patio, pergola, all of the plantings, where all these things are. It's all drawn to scale. The plants are spaced properly as well. So all the information is on here, and any qualified contractor could build this. It doesn't have elevations on it, but when I go out and do my site analysis, I shoot the topo. I have a pocket laser, a self-leveling laser that fits in my bag. I don't need to break out a tripod or anything like that. It's a great tool, a couple $100, and you can get very accurate spot elevations very quickly. So when I have retaining walls or steps, it's because I know the grades right there. I know if it's 3.5 feet or 5.5 feet, which is not something, as much as you think you can tell by eye, you really can't. But these types of tools allow me to do the site analysis very quickly, which allows me to put the plan together very quickly. Since the plan does not have all the traditional construction details, plant lists, dimension plans, it is much faster to do, and that's, that allows you to do a drawing at a much lower price than a traditional landscape architect would do. Again, everything could be scaled off of this drawing. The kitchen area is all to scale. You could measure it and know what your dimensions are, but those types of things all take time. Counting the plants takes time. Measuring the area of lawn takes time. So, and that's the type of stuff that we want to make sure if the clients are taking our plans and giving it to somebody else, that it's going to take the other contractor a lot of time to figure out all of this information. And so let's move on. Here's another concept plan, or actually a construction plan. I'm sorry, a unbiddable master plan. And I want to just answer, there was one question that came up a lot after the first presentation. People ask, well, okay, this plan looks great, it's really nice, but when do you do the real plan? When do you put together the one that shows all of that other information? And my answer is I don't. This is the plan that I work with for presentation purposes. This is the plan that I create estimates off of. This is the plan that the construction crews get to do the installation of the project. Obviously, there's supervision that's required for all of this. You can't just give the plan to your foreman and have them pull it off without any problems. But it does give them enough information to do the layout. It gives them the information where the bed areas are where the hardscape is. It allows you to paint out the entire design on the property. But if you look around, some of the notes, and I'll zoom in on it. The driveway area, it's asphalt driveway, paver border, seat wall, not the brand of paver that we're using, and all of that goes onto the contract itself. It's not that the customer doesn't know what they're getting. It's so that I could do the drawings faster, and chances are that I could pick a paver that I think they should use, but I typically like to take the clients to the mason supply yards and have them look at pavers and decide what we're going to use. So again, I'm selling a concept here for my clients. I want them to understand, understand conceptually what they're getting, spatially what they're getting, but I don't want them to get bogged down in all of the specific types of plants. I don't want them to have 6, 7 books, try to find out what all the plants are, because they're trying to basically take what it's taken all of us years to learn, and they're trying to learn in about a week or 2 weeks. And you want them to rely on you as the professional. You can't learn landscape architecture in a couple of weeks or by reading a few magazines. So there's really nothing wrong with giving generic names, Deutzia, you can see at the bottom of the screen, or I have a dogwood tree that's off the driveway. I don't need to Cornus rubra, one of the Rutgers hybrids. I could just write pink dogwood, and my clients would be happy with that, or white dogwood. In the contract, I'll say one white flowering dogwood, or if it was a Kusa dogwood, I would write Kusa dogwood. I would write the size of the tree, but that all goes onto the proposal. Okay, it doesn't have to be in this drawing. It doesn't have to be on a plant list, as long as the clients know exactly what they're getting. Right? They can see the lawn areas. You can see top left in the lawn area, I have perennials. Okay, because perennials, a 2-gallon perennial, almost all 2-gallon perennials are priced about the same. If they want to go ahead with the perennials, I could just write, figure out, if we look at that area there, it's probably, 8 perennials, 8 2-gallons are going to go in there. And I know that, my cost is going to be, say, $9.95 for them. So I could just list how many perennials, what size I'm installing on the proposal without getting into a lot of detail with on the drawing. Now again, this is for my clients. Your clients may be much more interested in plants. They may have a better working knowledge than the customers I work with. My customers just want an overall design that they're happy with, that they'll enjoy, and they trust me with the details. But if you have plant people that are really into the plants, then you're going to have to change your process a little bit. Okay, as we come around to the back, still the same thing, a colorful drawing, but basic information, azalea. In the contract, it may say pink azalea, white azalea, red azalea. My customers don't care if it's a Mother's Day or a Hershey red azalea. They just know they like the color red. So that'll be in the proposal. Same thing with the hydrangea. I could use a Nico blue, or let's see, I'm drawing a blank on some of the other hydrangeas that we potentially could use, but more in the shrub variety of hydrangeas. And you could see from the symbols there's 3 there. All right, so this is where I keep saying that any contractor, Endless Summer's the other one I was trying to think of, where a contractor, they'll have to count, okay, 1, 2, 3 hydrangea, they'll make a list. The azalea, there's 3. Butterfly bush to the right, there's 3. Okay, in the back there's some arborvitae, and some of the other plants are on the drawing. So go around again, you'll see the fences there, we're extending the patio, there's some variegated red twig dogwood, the gravel area around the equipment. So everything that's on here is to scale and can be built, and we have to measure it. Or if these are hand drawings, some of the other ones were Dynascape drawings. If you're using Dynascape, obviously it's much easier to figure out your square footages, and actually is much more beneficial because you can do your proposals much faster. And if you don't provide that information on the drawings, then it is going to be that much harder for your competitors to price it up. With my drawings, or the drawings I used to do, they were hand drawn, and I'd have to scale everything off to figure out the quantities. Okay, so Cypress swimming pool. Let's go on to the next slide. So more lawn area, more plantings. You can see there's spruce trees to the right, and if you count them up, there's, might be in trouble here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yeah, I knew it. I have an even number, so I apologize for all the odd number aficionados out there. It really should be an odd number, but I'm sure there was a reason I did it. So there's 8 Norway spruce there. There's a cypress, a tree lilac to the left. There's some stepping stones. I have the fence in there, arbor. So any landscape contractor that has been in the business for several years can build this. They may have to shoot, or they will have to shoot some of their own elevations to figure things out a little bit, but the entire plan itself is very credible and can be built. Okay, so that's as far as the unbiddable master plan. Just a quick review. The goal of this is to make sure that you get the work and that you keep the work and that it's not given to another contractor. Some of the other questions that come up, as far as, well, how do we know what the size of the plants are? Well, the size is you're going to pick yourselves. That's what's going to be in your contract. All right, so again, if we go back to the spruces, we know those could be 5 to 6 foot, 7 to 8 foot, 8 to 10, 10 to 12, and all of those things are going to be at various price points. You're going to pick the sizes that work with the budget that the client had, as well as the specific area that they wanted to work on as phase 1. So you have a lot of good inside information because you've followed the earlier steps in the process as far as doing the program, determining the budget, and then also finding out what the first phase of the project is. And once you have those things, you can base your plant sizes based on what the budget is. So say the area that we're looking at now, just planting-wise, was about, and they had a budget of $15,000. Well, you'll pick the plants that will accommodate that budget. If somebody else takes the drawing, or they give it to somebody else, they're going to have to guess at what the budget is because they weren't savvy enough to find out how much they wanted to spend, or maybe they're afraid to ask the customer. All those things are good for us. So they may undersize the plants, they may make the plants much larger than we specified. Whatever it is, their price is not going to be close to our price, might be too high, too low, and either one is fine because what's going to happen is, let's say it's too low, and that's, that's going to be a fear. The client's going to call and say, hey, Jody, Bob, Susan, how come you're so much higher? Okay, well, let me look at their contract, and you'll walk them through. Okay, they have 5 to 6 foot. I have 10 to 12 foot because you said you wanted screening right away. So you have the opportunity to explain everything. You can also offer them the option, well, if we want to bring the price down, sure. We could do the same plant smaller. We did this based on what you said your original goals were. And so you're still retaining the job. You're not losing it because somebody came in at, $12,300 and you were at $14,900. You'll have the opportunity to explain that to the client. You'll resolve it, and then they'll decide if they want smaller trees or not. But regardless, you're still going to get the work. All right, so they're good working drawings. They're very colorful drawings. You need to present in color, and on the next webinar we'll show exactly why, and I'll show you samples of why color rendered drawings are so much more appealing and will make your sale so much easier to do versus doing just showing a blueprint or a black and white bond print. All right, so that's the unbiddable plan of this side of this. Now we're going to get into the proposal side. All right, and one thing that contractors don't think about is putting together a well thought out proposal. They rush through it typically because you're under the gun, you barely got the design done. Whether you're estimating it or somebody else is doing the estimate or the proposal, it needs to be a good looking document. So here I obviously have a napkin proposal, and then I have a pre-printed business form. And we're going to go much farther beyond this, but just at this very simple example, the thing on the left is very unimpressive, unprofessional, and on the right has some professionalism to it. We're going to go much deeper into this. As far as napkin sketches go, and this is my little humor side of things, this actually is a good napkin proposal. If you're single, I saw this at a bar once, and I thought it was very amusing and hung on to it, took a picture of it. But this is where a napkin proposal could probably work, but probably the only place that it will work. One of the reasons that we want to always present a plan and a proposal is because although we think our clients understand everything that's in the proposal, they don't. And one of the things we're going to talk about is what to include in your proposal and what not to include in your proposal. Again, too many of us want to prove to our clients how much base material we're putting in their patio. We do a 10-inch base, the other guys do 4 inches. They don't really understand what that means, and they don't understand why that's important. So as much as you want to prove that you're put a bigger base in, they're thinking about, they want a nice patio. They want to be out there barbecuing on the weekends with their family and friends. So we don't need to really get into a lot of detail in the proposals. We need them to know what they are getting. They need to know where everything is going. But I found that less is more in this case, except for the plant material. That's where we list everything, the sizes, the quantities, the varieties, etc. But for everything else, you can actually list what your process is, as opposed to having these highly descriptive terms for the walkway. If you didn't have a plan to go along with this, you would have to describe the walkway, how long it is, how wide it is. If it's if the walkway starts at 4 feet, goes wider than narrower, you're going to have to describe all of that. And truth be told, most of us don't like to write that much, and it's very time consuming, and this is why your proposals take a long time to put together and why it takes you a long time to get back to the customer, which then turns into why you're not getting the job. So the things we're going to talk about, not only are we going to talk about the process, but I'm going to show you how to make a proposal template. Once you make this template, you can use this for every single project that you have going forward. It's a great concept. It'll take a little time to set it all up, but it's well worth it because, as you'll see, the proposals are already going to be pre-typed and where you're just deleting information. All right, so this again is just showing an example of what your clients see. Maybe they'll pick up a few words. They definitely see the price, and they'll pick up a few other things here or there. A proposal is really not a big deal. You're offering or suggesting something for acceptance. for a certain amount of money. Obviously, we're not talking about a marriage proposal here. Hopefully you're laughing a little bit. All right, and if you're not, we're moving on. Organize your proposal. All right, you need to think about how you're organizing your proposal because you need to present that proposal. If it's not organized, it's going to be tough for you to present it. If it's not organized, it's going to be tough for your clients to understand it. And even though you may have followed all of the other steps that I talked about before, if you are confused when you are presenting your proposal or you confuse your client, you're not going to leave with a signed check and a signed proposal because a confused customer does not buy. So you need to think about, and this is where the template's going to work out tremendously for you because we can plan all this out. We could think all of this through, and then you'll be able to present that same proposal time and time and time again. So one of the first things you want to do is organize your proposal the same way that you organize the project or the job. All right? It's a very big idea because as you're presenting, and we're going to go through some of the steps, as you're presenting your proposal in a logical order, in the order that we build projects. So even if you are a little nervous or you're new to this or you lose your place, you can remember, okay, I'm presenting the proposal the same way we do the work. So when I do, I just did a presentation yesterday about this. I was able to talk to the audience and ask them, what's the first step? And let's imagine it's a 40-year-old, 50-year-old landscape, and it pretty much needs everything, hardscape, plantings, etc. So the first thing you're going to do, I call it site work. You may call it something else, and you should use the terminology that works best for you. All right, I'm going to go through the general categories, and then I'm going to drill down and get into a little more detail, and then a little more detail. All right, so you're going to organize the job. First one, site work, okay, which could be, tree removal. Typically that's what I have in there, removing, some of the smaller shrubs, ripping some things out. Next is demolition, where you're ripping out hardscape. If you're doing the driveway, you're potentially ripping that out. Getting rid of old play structures, old decks, old existing retaining walls. Right, that's the next thing. We want to get the site cleaned up so that we could start moving forward. Depending on how the job is structured, you may get into some grading if you have to do some cut and fill, or now that the place is cleaned up or everything's removed, you're going to start doing your hardscape, and that could be retaining walls, patios, etc. In this case, I have it set up, assuming that the grades were pretty close. We're going to put the hardscaping in, and now we're going to grade the property up to the hardscape features. Then there's drainage. We want to tie in all of our downspouts while we still have a rough grade that we're working with. If we need to put a seepage tank in, if we need to put any drain inlets in, we're going to do that after we have the hardscape features in. Next step, okay, everything's graded. It's in the shape that we want it to be. And now we're going to get ready for the planting. So you're going to go prep the beds. And whatever your process is for that, whether you add topsoil, whether you add peat moss, or any other amendments, that's going to be in your bed prep. Then you're going to do your plantings. I know it sounds like I'm in a violent area right now, but it's not. I don't know why. There's just a lot of police and fire activity today. So you'll do your plantings after your bed prep. You'll come in, do your mulch after the plants are in, and then lawn repair. All right, so these, as much as all of our projects are unique and custom, there's still a very linear process that we follow, and you could set your proposal up in the same process. And obviously there are some other things that we can do in here, but I'm going to walk through these and then add some of the other ideas that that can be incorporated into this. And again, you may flip-flop things, you may have different terminology for things, but you want to just have one basic proposal that you're working with. So under site work, that might be tree removal and disposal, stump removal and disposal, and transplanting. Then your demolition, You could break it up into different, I have it broken up because the containers cost different amounts of money, so I kind of tie that together with the proposal. But you could break that down into subtopics. It's just like an outline for doing some sort of term paper or an article. All right, so it's a logical order. You may combine, have demolition, put all the tree removal into the demolition. You may call all of it site work. Hardscape, like I said, patios, walkways, stone walls, slab steps, stepping stones, whatever things you install, could be wet laid, it could be dry laid, and you'll have different descriptions for both of those as well. So again, organizing it the same way you organize the job. Now you're going to be grading. Are you importing fill or exporting fill? You're going to rough grade the property for proper drainage before you put in subsurface drainage. Under drainage, these are the typical things that we do. If they're not going to be part of that job, and as you'll see, we just delete out the sections that are not part of this proposal. So we're just doing a master proposal of all the things that we do. Could be 15 things, 20 things, 30 things, but you want to have all of them listed. So that includes bed prep, plantings, mulch, lawn repair are the topics, and then or the title, and then we can have descriptions underneath that, okay, or subtopics. Now we get into a little bit more. So where we have hardscape, underneath that should have been patio. The subtitle should have been patio, and then what I like to do is have all the I like to describe the process. So typically we excavate 8 inches for the pavers, we compact the base, put in the base material. You may want to list specifically what you use. I do this because I work with a lot of different contractors, so I keep it very generic. But if you want to put in quarry process or item number 3 or 4, sand, stone dust, whatever your the materials are that you use, that should be what are in your descriptions of the hardscape. So it should be hardscape, then paver patio, and then this description down beneath it. Bed prep, same thing. How do you prep your beds? It should be the same process time and time again. All right, so if you add amendments, if you sod cut, if you rototill the beds, all of those things should be in your bed prep information. And one thing I want to point out is that what you're also doing as you're creating this template, you're also developing best management practices and standard operating procedures for your company. So this is so far beyond just writing a proposal and writing a template. You're actually using these things to train your employees. If you have standardized systems, they'll look at the proposal because we give that to them with the plan, and they'll go, okay, we're doing this the same way that we always do it. And they're going to get familiar with it, and they're going to do your jobs much faster. So that's why I said earlier, this is, it's a training tool as well as a proposal. But let's, we'll focus on the proposal side. Plantings, you could write as much information how the plantings are done. If you don't want to give too much information, because you worry that maybe your guys don't dig the planting holes twice the size of the ball, which quite honestly most of them don't, remove the wire baskets. So you want to put some description in there, but not a description that's going to cause you trouble later on. Some of these things could be resolved with some training, or you may want to have all these things in there so that your employees are held accountable. But whatever it is, whatever way you manage your company or employees, list some descriptors with the plantings, and then from there, below that, you're going to list the names of the plants, whether you want to do both common and Latin, that's up to you. You're going to have the quantities and the sizes. That's all going to be in your proposal. It's not on your plan. It's implied on the plan. It can be measured and quantified on your plan, but the proposal is where the sizes and quantities of these things, plant material, reside. Mulch, same thing. Whatever your standard spec is, if it's hardwood mulch, if it's pine bark, cedar mulch, list that as your standard spec. If something changes, then you need to, if they're upgrading or using a different type, then you should make sure that when you give this proposal, after you sell the job to your employees, that you highlight and let them know that you're using a better mulch on this, okay, because now you're going outside your standard spec. Here's some of the other things. Again, I kind of, blew past. As far as the standard job, there's lighting. You can set all this up as well. You can, for lighting, you can talk about, dig trenches, talk about how many path lights that you want to have, or you can use as per plan, which is something I'll discuss in a second. So all of these things are other things that you, if your company does them, you want to have just a description of the process. A deck is built by you're digging footings, putting forms in, pouring concrete. Then you're going to, if you want to get into the actual structure of the posts and the beams and the joists and the decking, you can do that as well and just describe the process. So no matter if they use a Trex deck or they use a cedar deck, I don't think anyone's really using any pressure-treated stuff anymore, but you can have the description of it that's always constant, and maybe you have to add the word cedar or you have to add the word Trex or tech deck, but otherwise everything else remains the same. Patios, driveways, fencing, same thing. You're going to have a description of the process. So what this is all done now is you have this, whether it's 2, 3, 4 pages, you now have a master template. All right, it describes everything that your company does, regardless of how big the patio, if we're talking about patios, how big they are, how small they are, because you're discussing the process. All right, then also you're using standardized language. So again, for best management practices, your employees are starting to understand what the process is at your company. All right, and all of this as well, getting back to organizing your proposal to present to your clients, all of this is organized. You're going to become very familiar with all of the steps and the sub-steps of everything that you do. So if you are new to this and nervous, it's going to make it so much easier for you to present the proposals because you have standardized language. You also, because you've pre-written all of this, you've already checked for errors. You've done your spell checks. You've done grammar checks. You've given this to several people to look at. So now you know you're not missing anything. You can check for errors, because I'll tell you that you may not think so, but spelling errors really detract from professionalism. Somebody may not say anything, but it really does. I find errors, in things that I write once in a while, and it just makes a little mental note in somebody's mind. So don't think that those things don't matter, because they do. The next one is delete, don't add. So by having a master template, so let's say you're only doing plantings and hardscape, a paper patio, and a little bit of grading and drainage. Well, all the other categories, you just delete all of them. Okay, it's very easy to delete. This way you're never forgetting something. If you need to add something, you have to start thinking now. You have to start coming up with ideas. You have to start thinking about your process. In a matter of a minute, you could delete out all of the paragraphs of all of the things that you're not doing on this project, and then it just pares down to the things that you are doing. If you find you made a mistake or you found that you missed something, you just update it, because typically this is going to be in some form of Word document. So let's say that there was, like in my presentation, I missed a couple of words. I'll go back, I'll revise it for the next time that I'm doing it. It's no harm, no foul, and then you just save that as your master template. And what's great about this as well, if you have multiple salespeople, they're all presenting the same way. And I've worked for companies, I can tell you that we had 3 salespeople. We all wrote our own proposals. We all had our own prices. Quite frankly, if a customer came to me, they paid more than one of the other people, because my prices were higher, because we didn't have a standard. We didn't have, these are our prices. Maybe the labor, which is always the tough part to figure out, how long a job will take. But if you have multiple salespeople, within a couple of dollars, those proposals, you should be charging the same amount for almost everything that you do. And if you gave a drawing to 1 or 2 salespeople, their pricing should be very similar. If they're not, it's unfair to the customers. It's not good for you, because either one salesman's losing money and the other one's making money, or one's overcharging for things and potentially you're losing work because they're charging too much. So by creating these master templates and this standardized language and standardized processes, your company is going to start running more efficiently, and and running much tighter. Next, you're down with APP. On my proposals and my drawings, there are no square footages, linear footages, face footages, or cubic yards. And this is one of the beautiful things about doing an unbiddable master plan and landscape proposal. All right, the way that, and of course you're sitting there going, it's impossible to, not have that information. Well, that's not true. If you have a patio and walkway on the backyard and you write patio with all the descriptions, or, in the title you have the patio and you write as per plan. Okay, well that plan is dimension. That plan is to scale. It's not dimension, it's to scale. So if you measure that square area, let's say it's 20 by 20, that's 400 square feet. Okay, so by saying that the patio is as per plan, somebody has to measure that. So again, thinking about your competitors. Now 20 by 20 obviously is very easy, but what if it was a round patio or an amorphic, irregular shape? Same thing with your walkway. They have to measure all of those square footages. Okay, they have to take their scale and measure, and that takes time. It also creates inaccuracies. Linear footages as well. Don't need to do it. Retaining wall as per plan. Maybe you'll write 3 feet high. 3 foot high retaining wall as per plan. Same thing, face footages and cubic yards. And here's, with the cubic yards, I'll give you a perfect example if it's still not clicking. If you did a planting installation and you said in your proposal that we are going to install 3 inches of shredded hardwood mulch in all new planting beds. Okay, so the customer's getting 3 inches of mulch. It's something they could measure, something they know they're getting. It's going to be throughout the beds. But by not specifying how many cubic yards that is, your competitor, when they get that plan, or if they get that plan, are going to have to measure all the beds and do their own calculations again. Whereas if you put 20 cubic yards in your proposal, the contractor just takes 20 cubic yards, multiplies it by 60 or 70 or whatever, however they do it, or if they, do it the correct way, they'll figure out the labor, materials, overhead, and profit. But all these things that you're doing is just making their process longer and harder, which means that there's less of a chance they're going to get back to the client, or less of a chance that they're going to get back to them with a number that's even reasonable. All right, so as per plan is a very good workaround for square footages, linear footages. All right, so here are the samples of the guys. They don't know what to do, all right, because they don't have the dimensions and the information that they're comfortable working with. A couple last things, and then I'll finish up and we'll go to some questions. Lump sum versus unit price. I'm not a big lump sum guy, and I'm not a big unit price guy. I think you should do something in between. Lump sums do not allow your clients to digest, especially on the larger projects. You have a $100,000 installation. If you have a list of all of these things and $103,000 at the bottom, they're not comfortable with that. People want to see how things are broken down, but not broken down to the point where you're unit pricing everything, because if you unit price, then all they're going to do is look at every single thing and say, what if we do this, what if we do this, what if we do this? And it's going to be a torturous exercise. And again, it's not beneficial to the client whatsoever. It's not beneficial to you. And none of this is, all of this is to make our process easier and to give a better experience to the customer and to charge them a fair market price. So the same way that you organize your proposal is the same way I want you to organize your pricing. Site work, whatever's in there, has a number. Demolition has a number. Hardscape has a price. Grading has a price. Drainage has a price. So you're basically breaking this up into chunks of information. So now using that $100,000 example, the site work is, let's say, $6,200, demolition $3,700, hardscape $24,000, grading $3,000. So they could see where their money's going. Plantings could be, $35,000, et cetera, et cetera. They add that all up and they go, oh, I see why everything is so expensive, or I see how you got to the price that you arrived at, and it makes sense for them. All right, so so you go with a hybrid, okay? Provide them with enough information, but not too much information. And then the last couple of things is just the number that you put on there. Everybody has a different philosophy. If some people like to price to the penny, some to the tens, hundreds, thousands. Just if I had to pick one of these, and the way I used to do it, if it came out to $24,984.37, I would round it to $24,985. I don't like going to the penny. I don't like going to because the penny, to me, and people disagree, and that's fine, and you can do what you want. Penny seems to me that it's just, it's crazy that you could actually come to the penny, but, people do. 25,000 looks like you just kind of took a rough number and just threw it out there. So, my preference is 24,985. You could do what you want, but also look at the numbers, because as I wrote down there, some numbers are just ugly. 24,984.37 actually looks like it's more than $25,000 just because the number's so long. All right, so if you have to play with the numbers a little bit just to make them more attractive, then you should look into doing that. So that's it. We'll have a couple of questions, but just a reminder, Landscape Live radio show every Wednesday, 7 to 8 Eastern Standard Time. If you want to become a member of my website, you can actually still save $50 this week if you go on. I'm going to, for the next couple of hours, and then after that we're going to go to $30 that you could save on the website. But if you go on, you can save $50 by putting in the promo code double sales and one word. So I want to again thank Marisa Palmieri from Landscape Management and Joe Salemi from Dynascape for partnering and helping us bring this all together. And I'd like to pass it back over to Joe.
Thanks, Jody. So we do have quite a few questions. It was quite a lively group today. Looks like there's the better part of 25 questions or so that have come up during your webinar.
Okay.
So we're going to address every single one of them right now.
Okay.
No, we have time to address about 2 or 3.
Okay.
There was a couple that were pretty keen at the beginning and had submitted some questions before he had actually even started. So we'll look at James. And so James Hanselman has a question, and he says, how do you set your design fee rates? Would you consider estimated time for all tasks or a percentage of total project value?
What I have and what's available to you, James, is if you go on my website, you can actually get a copy of the document that I use. And but just to let you know, I price my design fees based on the size of the property, so 1/4 acre, 1/2 acre, 3/4 of an acre, an acre, which in reality is based on my hourly rate, which is then based on how much time I think or I know that a plan will take. So 1/4 acre property at my hourly rate will take me, somewhere about 5, maybe 6 hours between site visit meeting and doing the actual drawing itself. So, I have a price for that, and I don't have the prices on everything, and I really shouldn't, discuss actual pricing. But, I know how long a 1/4 acre will take me. I know how long a 1/2 acre will take me, even with swimming pool, patio versus just doing a straight planting plan. And I find that that system works very well because clients, I give them a flat fee, and they love that. And I write what's included and what's not included in my design fees. So, the percentages I think is risky and doesn't account for time, just as some of the other solutions don't really factor in time and your rate. I treat it just like you would a patio installation, factor in some overhead, the time, and some profit.
Great, thanks, Jody. Another question, we have one from Kirsten Hironaka. She says, if we don't provide the information on the drawing, won't it make it difficult for billing when the client thinks they're having the $25,000 fireplace, but you estimated a $5,000 fireplace? Okay,
great question. Everything is, and this is the hardest part to kind of get past, is that everything is in the proposal. So you will have the description of what the fire pit is, the materials that are going to be used in the fire pit, maybe your installation process. But as you know, I mean, let's compare it to a kitchen countertop in a house. If you have Formica, that countertop's going to be, $20 or $10 a square foot or a face foot. If you go to granite, you're going to be, $80, $90, $100 a face foot. They're both countertops. They're both the same dimensions. Only one's more expensive than the other. But by just writing Formica countertop or granite countertop, you can do the same thing. Fire pit as per plan, constructed with the material that you're using. If you're wet laying it, if you're dry laying it, if you're using one of the paver, the prefabbed ones, or if you're doing a custom one. So that information goes in the proposal, but the plan is really for layout and sales purposes.
Okay, thanks, Jody. We have, I guess it looks like we have time for one more.
Yeah.
Katie Longmore has a question, and she says, when you quote out your master plan, do you keep a written record of the square footages and measurements for your own purposes, such as ordering material for the job? Is there an easy-to-use template for that?
If I'm doing the estimating, I have to, when I did more of them, I don't do the estimating now. I have the companies, that I work for do them. But as far as the template, what I would say is, I estimate by, kind of the cumbersome way of using my scale and running all around, or measuring everything on the plan. Obviously, software programs make that much easier because the areas are calculated, automatically for you, or there's the ability to do that. So, that if you're capable and able to, use software, that's going to save your time as far as all your square footages, all your quantities. Then you could keep a record of it. But, for my purposes, the contractors who I design for, they're going to keep that information. I don't do that as much myself.
Great, thanks, Jody. So we have a few other questions, and what I'll do is send them off to you and see if we can get you to answer those, and we'll send out the answers in time for our next webinar. In the meantime, I'd invite all of our registrants to join us next Thursday, January 30th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard for Jody's third installment of the 5 Ds for successful design build sales. And during that webinar, Jody will be focusing on preparing for a perfect presentation. Jody, thanks for your time today.
Joe, thank you very much. Marisa, thank you. Everyone out there, thank you. And like I said, the documents, if you just give me your email address on my website, you could download all the documents, or a good amount of the ones that I use. And please feel free to use all of those. Copy them, whatever you want to do with them. They're there for your use. So thank you, everybody, and I'll see you next week.